This is a major red alert. There is a ton of big stuff going on right now, internationally and domestically, and we need to be getting ready. We need to be getting prepared right now, okay? They have hazmat National Guard crews deploying right now. These things are happening in coordination with international events that are breaking out, and we could potentially have similar things like this happen here as well inside the United States. We could have these attacks happen domestically, and that's what the National Guard is getting ready for right now, okay? So big things are happening, all right? Hundreds of National Guard troops have been deployed, and this is a major deal, all right? A major deal, and we need to be getting ready. We need to be getting prepared, okay? You need to have iodine, just potassium iodine or even nascent iodine in your stockpile, some form of it, okay? Some form of this, so you can take this in case of an emergency, so you can fill your thyroid gland, because this is what the National Guard is preparing for right now. They're preparing for a major radiological disaster, and they have hazmat crews, everything, the whole 9 yards. They're getting ready for something big, okay? Something big is breaking. And we also have National Guard deploying for something else as well. And we also have cities now begging the National Guard to come to their city. They're saying, please, they're begging the state to authorize the National Guard to come to their city. A new city just started begging for this, and it's a major city in the US. All right, so there's a ton of stuff going on, and we need to be getting ready. This needs to be on everyone's radar. All right, so if you didn't see what's going on, let's just start internationally, and then we will get to what's happening domestically too, because these go hand in hand. And something big, we keep having these massive hazmat radiation preparations by the National Guard, and they are getting ready for something big domestically to happen. All right, but internationally, we just saw major conflict erupt in Israel and Palestine, okay? So very tragic incident going on over there. A ton of casualties, okay? Very sad incidents. And this is happening right now in live time, and we could see similar events like this escalate in the United States, okay? We could see these events pop off because the National Guard has already been deployed as well. They just deployed 250 more from Alabama to the southern border, okay? This isn't even part of the hazmat National Guard. We're going to get to that in a second for a radiation disaster. But they just deployed, there's multiple things going on right now, a lot of moving parts. They just deployed 250 to the border, okay? Because there's such a surge of people coming in, and there could be enemy combatants coming in. There could be foreign enemy combatants coming in and forming these paramilitary units throughout the United States, okay? There's already hundreds of these Chinese police stations that are all over the United States. These things are being set up right now in the background. There's a reason why all this stuff is happening. And Texas is now trying to build its own border wall, okay? And we had the Biden administration, Mayorkas, the head of DHS, he came out and said that they need to build a wall as well, okay? They need to expedite it. So everyone's starting to realize that this is becoming a major security issue as well, because look at just what happened, right? Things were just wide open, very suspicious what's going on too over there, okay? I don't want to get into too much detail because this is a live event, but things were just kind of left wide open, right? And this was kind of allowed to happen, it seems like. That's what boots on the ground are saying, and that's what I'm reading from reports, okay? So this could be allowed to happen here in the US as well. We could have a major attack scenario, and states are being overwhelmed. This is also the pretext to declare martial law, okay? The city of Denver is now begging the state of Colorado to please deploy the National Guard to the streets of Denver, just like they've done in New York, just like they've done in Massachusetts. They want to have the military guard on the streets to deal with this crisis of all the influx of people coming in, okay? Because they're going to these mega cities because these mega cities are offering them tons of benefits. New York is allowing people to stay in hotels, indefinitely, luxury hotels, and they are also getting money stipends, some people up to $2,200 a month. So they're getting free housing and free money up to $2,200 a month. I'm sure that's more than a lot of people make that are watching right now. Okay, a lot of people are on fixed income, Social Security, all this, and people in New York and a lot of these different cities are getting stipends and free housing, but they are being overwhelmed because once that happens, it attracts more people. Okay, but who exactly are these people? And another thing that was pointed out, and we're going to get to this radiological disaster in just a second that they are preparing for as well, the National Guard is, with these crazy hazmat suits and everything. I'll show you guys, but why are they building all of these immigration camps and facilities everywhere, but they're empty? They're all empty. There's all these DHS camps and DHS facilities and all the stuff. We used to see like people in these facilities. Now nobody's in them. Everyone's just allowed to roam and go wherever they want. And all these facilities are empty at the same time that our country is being completely overwhelmed. Okay, so this is a massive national security issue. And there's even been security threats of things like shipping containers and the supply chain being weaponized and potentially even having missile systems inside of the shipping containers. Okay, there's multiple countries that have developed that technology, and that's one of the main thing that they're worried about during an attack on the US. Okay, so let's get into what the National Guard is preparing for, because all this stuff goes together. This is all happening at the same exact time, and it's not a coincidence. All right, the world is bubbling up. World War III is bubbling up. WW3 is bubbling up. All right, shtf is getting closer every day, and they want a mass extinction, mass depopulation event. I made a whole video documenting it, how they are preparing for a mass extinction event, and they're saying we're in the middle of it right now. All right, all these things coordinate together, and now we have the National Guard. Okay, this was the largest statewide event that they've ever had in Iowa, and they just had the Iowa National Guard at a major stadium in Iowa. They had hazmat crews and their entire radiological, chemical, biological preparedness units there, and doing preparedness for a major radiological event that could happen a multitude of ways at some kind of stadium. Okay, that's exactly what the Iowa National Guard is preparing for right now, and they had hazmat units deployed, everything. So all these things are coming together. All right, all these things are not a coincidence, and we could see a major event happen inside the US. Okay, we already have these cities begging for the National Guard and begging for more troops and more federal funds and federalizing things and militarizing things even more, essentially declaring martial law in a lot of these cities. But what happens when there's a major domestic event like this? There's going to be a massive clampdown. There could potentially be a military draft in the US. Okay, over in Israel, they are saying that they are conscripting people and calling up all the reserves in Israel right now. All right, they're saying they're in a state of war. All this stuff can happen overnight, guys, and that's how a lot of the times it does happen. Okay, we see the signs, we see the bubblings up, we see the warnings, and this is something that's been going on for a long time over there. And what did we just have happen a few days ago? We had this national emergency alert test happen, and they are getting ready to warn us of something. They want to be able to control this narrative when a major emergency happens, because there could be suspicions about what is going on. All right, it could not all be right when the big thing happens on the US, it could not be the way they are describing it. There could be a lot of back ends, all right? We've seen our own country train a lot of these groups and arm a lot of these groups that eventually end up fighting. We end up fighting them. And we just had this emergency test a few days ago, all right? So all these things are coming together. We had these senators, 6 months ago, they all were issued satellite phones. They all were issued satellite phones. And by the way, this alert system, it went out for 30 minutes and everyone was saying that they got it at different times, okay? And I was out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have service, so I didn't even get it on any of my devices because I didn't even want to have it on my devices either, right? That's a whole nother thing, but this is not even an efficient tool, okay? It took them 30 minutes. Everyone was getting it at different times. So if there was a real event, they're saying, hey, it's about to hit here at X time, X coordinates at X time, then nobody's even really going to get that much notice anyways, right? You could get your notice after it already hits and it's too late, right? So this was a massive fail of the alert system as well, and something is wrong with it and suspect with it as well, and they want to be able to use this to control the narrative, right? Control the narrative, so when the big thing happens, they can blame it on whichever country they want, right? There's a few countries that we know could be blamed, could do it, or it could be blamed, right? If there's a sketchy situation, a false situation, right? So we need to be prepared for it all, and you need to be getting away from these major population centers, okay? These places that have major stadiums, okay? They keep doing these tests, these radiation disaster tests at these stadiums, okay? They just did another one a few months ago. This was through the federal government, though. This was not the National Guard. It was a federal government agency did this just a few months ago at a different stadium, right? I believe it was in Michigan. So they're getting ready for something big, and they want it to be shocking. So people go along with the lockdown, with the police state, with the martial law, with the checkpoints, okay? And they already are proposing these checkpoints just from people. They want to try to keep people inside of Texas, and the Biden administration came out with this just a few weeks ago and said that they're proposing internal checkpoints to keep people in Texas instead of allowing Texas to bus people further into the country, which is controversial in itself, and I honestly don't think I really agree with, because it's just spreading people further and making the situation worse. All right, we need to be able to stop this situation at the border and at the country, and Texas is building its own border right now, and even the Biden administration came out and said that we need this now too, right? So everyone's starting to realize this is a major issue, and it's become out of control, and it's a national security threat now as well. That's the biggest thing that we need to be looking at. Why are they doing these radiological hazmat drills all over the country? Why do they keep doing this? And why did the National Guard just do one, the largest one in history, in Iowa? They just did it, right? So something we should all be thinking about. And these things are always just like swept under the rug. You think this would be like mainstream news everywhere, but it's not. It's just like in the background, and they're preparing for big things. The National Guard was doing cyber events, blackout incidences as well. They were training in Iowa and Illinois a few months ago as well too. I made a whole video on that, how they were preparing for civil unrest. They were doing like riot training, and they were actually doing like domestic training against like domestic populations if there was like an insurgency and there was like riots and things like that, right? That's what they were preparing for in Iowa. And then in Illinois, they were preparing for a major cyber attack, a major blackout on the grid. All these things have happened in the past few months, and they would go hand in hand. They would all go hand in hand. They would say, hey, this cyber attack wiped out our banking system, or wiped out this giant chunk of the grid, this massive grid producer. And then that is declared as the act of war, and we are now locked into this conflict where we have to respond. And military recruitment is at all-time lows. I've already seen them proposing this in the past few months, saying that they would do limited conscription, okay, limited drafts, where they would have volunteers, okay, and then if they're like 10,000 people short for recruits, they will have a 10,000 person draft. That's what they're talking about right now, limited drafts in the U.S. military. And you can bet if there's a big conflict that pops off, whether it's Iran, whether it's Russia, China and Taiwan, Israel, all these different countries are boiling up in the background right now, and they are waiting for the cards to be played so they can do the clampdown, right, and declare martial law on the country in America, right? And it's gotten to a point where we've kind of seen what it would look like. It would really be mostly based in these major cities, okay? There would be checkpoints, but if you were rural, you would most likely be just blocked off from entering these major cities, or you would have to go through massive checkpoints, and you would be severely monitored to go into these areas. And it would be like, you know, showing your papers and everything, and you're going to get your ration, all right? That's the situation that we are setting ourselves up for right now. We could have an economic dollar collapse. There's a ton of resistance against the dollar right now, okay? The BRICS nations are trying to combat the dollar, and the dollar itself is collapsing in on itself from all the money printing and the hyperinflation as well. All right, so, and this is what massive empires do when their debts run out, when they can't pay their debts anymore, when they reach the end of this Ponzi scheme, this debt scheme, where they sell this worthless hyperinflationary money to all the other countries of the world to prop themselves up. That's essentially what the US has done with the dollar, okay? All these other countries are holding dollars, and that's kind of how we are allowed to print so much money, is the dollars are overseas. But if everybody dumps the dollars and they rush back, we could see hyperinflationary scenarios as well, and that could also push us further towards a massive World War III scenario. All right, it's already started. We'll have to see what the historians say the official start of World War III is, but we are definitely already in it, and we are just waiting for a big event for the US to be dragged into it. We already see it. We already see the sides. We already see it. It's like the East versus the West here, all right? We already see what's going on, but it's not official yet. They haven't declared it, and we need to be getting ready for it so we're not caught flat-footed. And they want this. They want a massive depopulation event. You guys remember those Georgia Guidestones last year? You remember those? Destroyed. They want to bring the Earth's population down to 500 million people. 500 million people. That's what the Georgia Guidestones said. And they destroyed those last year, all right? And I felt like that was very symbolic, and nobody was ever arrested, and it was just kind of swept under the rug, and nobody knows who makes this stuff. We kind of know who made it, but it's all just very suspicious and very strange, right? And it seems like their plan is going into full effect right now. So please hit it up for me down there to help get this video out to more people. There's a ton of stuff going on, all right? The National Guard, 250 more deployed to the southern border, all right? We have Denver begging for the National Guard on the streets, and we have the National Guard doing hazmat drills, preparing for radiological events on domestic U.S. soil. This is like deep in the U.S., in the middle of Iowa. All right, they're preparing for this. So make sure you are getting prepared. Make sure you're getting stocked up. Just get an extra bag of rice. Get a couple more cans. Get a few more water bottles. Get a few more gallons of water. Fill up a few more old water bottles from the sink and throw them in the storage. You could drink those, you could boil those, use them for cooking one day. Just anything. Just think of these little things that you can do just to push you a little bit further. Those are days worth of preps. All right, those few water bottles could get you a few more days. That extra bag of rice could get you a few more days. Could help your neighbor to get a few more days. And that might be the thing to change. All right. And honestly, we are moving into this beast system as well. So you want to have as many preps as possible now before they start locking down food that you can buy. All right. Before you are just artificially face scanned with this AI and you're just not allowed to enter. All right. You've been deemed undesirable by their system and you're not allowed to buy or sell in their beast system anymore. That's also coming very soon, and it's part of the rebirth of this collapse. Okay, we're gonna have a major collapse, and then in the rebirth of the collapse is going to be this dystopian system where everything is tracked and traced, where there are military units on the streets. Okay, there's martial law, there's rationing, and there is riots, and there is chaos, and that is what they're setting up for America. All right, everyone can feel it. Everyone knows this is coming, and make sure you are getting your family ready. All right, so get those gas cans filled up as well too. All right, you never know, the power could go out and you might be pinching yourself like, dang, I should have got a little bit more. That happened to me a couple weeks ago. So please hit it up for me down there to help get this video out to more people. They are preparing for something big, and you need to be preparing for something big too. All right, so make sure you have nascent iodine or potassium iodide in your preps somewhere, all right, just in case. And it's good to have too for health benefits and detoxing as well, all right? That's what I use it for. Don't take my advice on that, but that's what I do, all right? So thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.